Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello there, it's Abdul Karim again, Leslie. And today I want to talk about one of the juristic principles. Some people call it one of the proofs of the sharia. I like to think of it as a mechanism for arriving at laws or the rulings of the sharia. And the principle is called, in English, it's called blocking the means. It is an idea whereby you block the means to something bad. In other words, you prevent a crime by blocking the way to commit it. That is the idea behind the principle. So I want to highlight in this brief talk, hopefully, some of the problems with this doctrine and how it should be applied in order to avoid these problems. Now, the principle of saddu zaraya, blocking the means, is based on the assumption that the means to an act takes on the value of the end. So if the end is good, the means becomes good, and if the end is bad or evil or prohibited, the means becomes evil, bad or prohibited. Now, as the expression blocking the means indicates, it seems to apply in cases where the end is evil. However, the statement that the means takes on the value of the ends is very general, and as long as you apply it in cases where the end is evil and the means to it takes on the value of the end, there is some damage, but perhaps it's not as extensive as the damage can be if you apply the principle to cases where the end is good. Because when you say that the good end makes the means that you arrive at it also good, essentially what you are saying is something quite familiar to Western people. What you are saying, in other words, is that the end justifies the means. If you have a good end in view, you can commit any atrocities or crimes to arrive at it. Now, that is of course wrong, and we cannot accept it. But that is in fact what happened with the communist ideology, for instance, and Stalinism and all these totalitarian ideologies, who wiped out millions of people just because they wanted to establish a paradise on earth, a workers' paradise or a classless society. So this principle, which is also called the Machiavellian principle, is actually very dangerous, and we should guard against it, and we should not allow it to penetrate this or influence in any way this Islamic principle of blocking the means, because the underlying principle could be abused and applied in cases where the end is good to justify the means, to prove that the means are therefore also good. So I would suggest that the principle should only apply in cases where the end is evil, and then we say, okay, the means to it will also be evil. Now, even here we need to restrict it further, because there are many legal actions which can result in evil ends. I may, for instance, drive a car to get to work and come back, but I may also drive the car in order to kill some people. So clearly it is not the car which is at fault. I'm the one who is responsible whether the car will be used in a legal or an illegal way. So we cannot simply ban all cars from the road by saying that using them could actually lead to crime, and therefore we have to prohibit the use of cars for everybody. No, that's nonsense. But it does remind me of a real life case. I met a fellow from Nigeria one time, and he told me that at one time in his country, in Nigeria, the government forbade the use of computers in all the government offices, using this principle of blocking the means to an evil act, and they justified the prohibition of using the computers by saying that, well, we have to prohibit people from using the computers because they could watch pornography on those computers. So in order to prevent them from watching pornography, we have to prevent them from using computers for any other purpose. Well, here I think there is a problem, because you are prohibiting a device or a technology which, yes, admittedly can be used for the purpose they mentioned, but is also used and mostly used for a variety of other purposes, most of which are quite legitimate. So we cannot just wholesale condemn the computers and ban them just because some people are going to abuse them. Now, you could make a similar argument about gun control. I know that in the US this debate has been raging, but let them settle it. I want to focus on the, on the implications of the principle here. So let me just reiterate, the principle saddu zaraya, or the blocking the means principle, is a justification to ban certain activities on the grounds that they may lead to illegal activities. In other words, a legal activity becomes illegal because it may lead to another activity which is illegal. Now, as I mentioned, there's a problem with that. Another problem is that even the evil, as I mentioned, the evil activity does not necessarily follow the first activity. So I would say that we could still use and apply this principle of blocking the means, but only on two conditions. One condition is that it always applies only in cases where the end is evil or prohibited. And secondly, that it be used, that this principle of blocking the means be only used and applied in cases where the evil end necessarily follows the means. In other words, that it's practically guaranteed that if you do A, you will also do B. And if the B is prohibited or evil, then A, we can consider A to be also prohibited or evil. Now, there may not be very many such cases, but I think we need to apply these restrictions. Otherwise, the use of this principle, blocking the means, can be abused quite significantly and actually make life much more difficult to people than it needs to be. So I think that's all for today. I think if you have any questions, maybe you can write them down below and I will take a look, and if I'm able to, I will certainly answer them. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.